Princess Zara stepped out of her royal transport ship and looked around the Galactic Research Station with visible disappointment. The metal corridors were clean but simple, nothing like the crystal palaces of her home world. She had traveled 3 star systems to meet the famous Dr. Voss, the galaxy's greatest expert on dangerous alien life forms. Her empire needed his knowledge to deal with predator attacks on their outer colonies. A young human male approached her, wearing simple work clothes instead of formal robes. He had short brown hair and calm brown eyes. His movements were quiet and careful, like someone used to being around dangerous things. "Your Highness," the human said with a respectful bow. "I am Ben. Dr. Voss asked me to show you around today. He had to leave for an emergency field study on Titan IV." Zara's face showed her annoyance clearly. Her purple skin darkened slightly, the way it did when Villani people felt insulted. "I came here to speak with Dr. Voss himself, not his apprentice." "When will he return?" 3 weeks, maybe 4, Ben replied calmly. "The Titan crawlers are in their mating season. It's the only time we can study their behavior safely." The princess sighed. Her telepathic abilities could sense that Ben was telling the truth, but this was still a waste of her valuable time. The Villani had ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years through their mental powers and superior technology. They were not used to being kept waiting by primitive species like humans. "Fine," she said coldly. "Show me what you have here. But I expect a full report for Dr. Voss when he returns." Ben nodded and led her through the station's main corridor. The walls were lined with viewing windows that showed different containment areas. Each one held creatures from the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. "This station studies apex predators," Ben explained as they walked. "We keep them here to understand their behavior and find ways to protect colonists from attacks." They stopped at the first viewing window. Inside was a creature that made Zara step back in fear. The Krillian Deathstalker was 12 feet long with black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its 6 legs ended in claws that could cut through starship metal. Rows of teeth lined its massive jaw, each tooth as long as Zara's hand. "These creatures have destroyed 17 colonies in the Outer Rim," Ben said, standing close to the window. "They're from the acid worlds where nothing else can survive." Zara watched in surprise as the massive predator noticed Ben approaching the window. Instead of attacking or showing aggression, the Deathstalker moved toward the back of its containment area. Its head lowered slightly, and it seemed to avoid looking directly at Ben. "Why is it acting like that?" Zara asked. Ben glanced at the creature, then back at her. "Like what, Your Highness?" "It moved away from you. These things are supposed to be fearless." "Maybe it's just resting," Ben said with a small shrug. "They sleep 18 hours a day on their home world." Zara wasn't convinced, but she followed Ben to the next viewing area. This one contained a pack of shard wolves from the crystal mines of Zirion. These creatures were smaller than the Deathstalker but twice as fast. Their bodies were covered in natural crystal formations that could deflect energy weapons. They hunted in groups and were known for their intelligence. As Ben approached this window, all 5 wolves immediately moved to the far corner of their space. They pressed themselves against the back wall, making soft whimpering sounds. Zara had never heard of shard wolves making any sound other than their hunting howl. "This is very strange," Zara said, using her telepathic abilities to probe Ben's thoughts. She expected to find the simple, direct thoughts typical of humans. Instead, she encountered something unexpected. Ben's mind felt shielded, protected by natural mental barriers that she had never seen in any species. "What's strange?" Ben asked, seeming genuinely confused. "The way these creatures react to you. I've studied galactic predators for years. They don't behave this way." Ben looked at the wolves, who were still pressed against the back wall. "I spend a lot of time with them. Maybe they're just used to me. They continued the tour through more viewing areas. Each containment held something more dangerous than the last. The nebula hunters were space-dwelling creatures that could survive in the vacuum and attack ships directly. When Ben approached their tank, which was filled with a simulation of deep space, the normally aggressive creatures became completely still. In another area, they saw the acid spitters from Venom Prime. These creatures could dissolve metal with their spit and were responsible for destroying mining operations across 3 systems. They had never been successfully kept in captivity for more than a few weeks because they always found ways to escape. When they saw Ben, they moved to the corner of their enclosure and became quiet. "How long have these creatures been here?" Zara asked. "Most of them arrived about 6 months ago," Ben replied. "We've had better success keeping them calm than other research stations." "And you work with all of them?" "Yes, Your Highness. I help with behavioral studies and feeding schedules. Sometimes I go into the field to observe them in their natural environments." Zara stared at Ben with new interest. Field observation of galactic apex predators was incredibly dangerous. Most scientists studied them only through remote sensors and protective barriers. The fact that this young human claimed to work with them directly seemed impossible. "You go into the field alone?" "Sometimes with small teams," Ben said. "But usually it's better to go alone. Groups of people make most predators nervous." They reached the center of the station, where a large display showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked locations where apex predator attacks had occurred in recent years. There were hundreds of dots, scattered across dozens of star systems. "The attacks are getting worse," Ben said, looking at the display. "The creatures are moving into areas where they've never been seen before. Something is driving them away from their home worlds." Zara studied the pattern of attacks. Her own empire's colonies had suffered 12 major predator incidents in the past year alone. "Do you have any theories about what's causing this?" Dr. Voss thinks it might be connected to deep space mining operations. The vibrations from large-scale mining could be disturbing their territories. Before Zara could respond, they heard a loud crash from somewhere deeper in the station. Emergency lights began flashing red, and a voice spoke over the communication system. "Attention all personnel. We have a containment breach in Section 7. This is not a drill. All non-essential staff report to emergency shelters immediately." Ben's expression changed instantly. The calm, almost sleepy look disappeared from his eyes, replaced by sharp alertness. "Your Highness, please stay close to me." "What's in Section 7? Zara demanded. "Maximum security containments," Ben replied, already moving toward the emergency. "The most dangerous specimens." The lights went out completely, leaving only the red emergency lighting. In the distance, they could hear the sound of metal being torn apart, followed by a sound that made Zara's blood freeze. It was like a cross between a roar and a scream, but somehow intelligent, as if whatever made it was enjoying the destruction. "We need to get to the emergency shelters," Zara said, her voice shaking. Ben stopped walking and turned to face her. In the red light, his expression looked completely different. The nervous apprentice was gone. Now he looked focused and confident, like a soldier preparing for battle. "Your Highness, the emergency shelters won't help if it's what I think it is." "What do you mean?" "Section 7 only has one occupied containment right now. We were preparing to transfer it to a military research facility next week." Another crash echoed through the station, this time much closer. The lights flickered, and they could hear the sound of running footsteps as station personnel fled toward the emergency areas. "What creature is it?" Zara asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Ben looked directly at her, and for the first time since meeting him, Zara saw something in his eyes that reminded her of the apex predators they had been observing. "A Void Reaper." Zara felt her legs go weak. Void Reapers were the most feared creatures in the galaxy. They were intelligent, incredibly strong, and completely ruthless. A single Void Reaper had once destroyed an entire space fleet by hunting each ship one by one. They were supposed to be impossible to capture alive. "How is there a Void Reaper here?" she whispered. "It was found injured near the Cygnus Nebula," Ben explained, his voice staying calm even as the sounds of destruction grew closer. Dr. Voss wanted to study its healing abilities before it was transferred to the military. The station shook as something heavy hit the wall nearby. They could hear the sound of metal being peeled apart like paper. "We have to run," Zara said, starting toward the emergency shelters. Ben caught her arm gently but firmly. "Your Highness, please trust me. Stay behind me and don't make any sudden movements." "Are you insane? That thing will kill us both." "Maybe," Ben said quietly. "But running will definitely get us killed. Void Reapers hunt by chasing prey. If you run, it will catch you." The sounds of destruction were now coming from just around the corner. Whatever was making them was moving through the station's corridors, tearing apart everything in its path. "Then what do you suggest?" Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ben stepped in front of her, placing himself between her and the direction of the sounds. "Stay directly behind me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And whatever happens, don't try to use your telepathic abilities on it." "Why not?" "Because Void Reapers hunt telepathic species for food. If it senses your mental abilities, it will focus on you specifically." The corridor ahead of them filled with shadow as something massive moved through it. The emergency lights reflected off dark, wet-looking skin. The Void Reaper stepped into view, and Zara had to bite her lip to keep from screaming. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in what looked like living shadows that seemed to move independently of its physical form. For arms extended from its torso, each ending in claws that dripped with some kind of acidic substance that hissed when it hit the metal floor. Its head was elongated, with no visible eyes, but Zara could feel it looking at them somehow. The Void Reaper opened its mouth, revealing rows of teeth that seemed to go down its throat forever. The sound it made was like metal being scraped against stone, but somehow formed into words. "Telepathic prey," it said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I can taste your fear." Zara realized it was talking to her. The creature had sensed her mental abilities despite Ben's warning. She tried to back away, but Ben stepped forward instead, moving directly toward the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. "Ben, no," Zara whispered. But Ben continued walking forward with slow, steady steps. He kept his hands visible and moved without any sudden motions. As he got closer to the Void Reaper, something impossible happened. The creature stopped moving. Its head tilted slightly, and the shadows around its body seemed to slow their constant writhing movement. For a long moment, the two of them stood facing each other in the red emergency lighting. Then, slowly, the Void Reaper took a step backward. Zara watched in complete shock as the galaxy's most feared predator continued backing away from Ben. The creature's aggressive posture changed. Its 4 arms lowered slightly, and its head dropped in what looked almost like submission. Ben continued walking forward until he was close enough to touch the creature. When he spoke, his voice was low and steady, using sounds that didn't seem to belong to any language Zara had ever heard. The Void Reaper responded with similar sounds, a deep rumbling that somehow seemed calm rather than threatening. The two of them stood there for several minutes, having what appeared to be a conversation in a language that existed below words. Finally, Ben stepped aside and gestured toward the corridor that led back to Section 7. The Void Reaper looked at him for another moment, then turned and walked back the way it had come. Its footsteps grew quieter as it moved away, and eventually they heard the sound of a containment door closing. The emergency lights stopped flashing, and normal lighting returned to the station. In the distance, they could hear voices as station personnel began to emerge from the emergency shelters. Zara stared at Ben, who had returned to his calm, quiet demeanor as if nothing unusual had happened. "What just happened?" she asked. "Containment breach," Ben replied simply. "But everything's secure now. That creature was about to kill us. It said it could taste my telepathic abilities. And then it just walked away because you asked it to." Ben looked at her with the same mild expression he had worn all day. "Void Reapers are intelligent. Sometimes you can reason with them. No one has ever successfully communicated with a Void Reaper before. The military has been trying for decades." "Maybe they were trying the wrong approach," Ben said. Before Zara could ask more questions, station security arrived. The security chief, a nervous-looking Eltarian, rushed up to them. "Your Highness. Ben. Are you both safe? We lost contact with Section 7 for 20 minutes. "Everything's fine," Ben told him. "The Void Reaper returned to its containment voluntarily. You should check the locking mechanisms, though. Something might have malfunctioned." The security chief looked confused. "Returned voluntarily? Void Reapers don't do that." "This one did," Ben said calmly. "I'll write a full report for Dr. Voss when he returns." As the security team moved away to check on the containment systems, Zara found herself studying Ben with completely new eyes. Everything about this day had challenged what she thought she knew about human capabilities. "Ben," she said quietly, "what exactly is your role here?" "I'm Dr. Voss's research assistant," he replied, but there was something in his expression that suggested there was more to the story. "And what kind of research do you assist with?" Ben was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to tell her. "Predator psychology," he finally said. "Understanding how apex species think and behave." "And the field work you mentioned? You really go out and observe these creatures in their natural environments?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Alone?" "Usually." Zara felt a chill run through her. The implications of what she had witnessed were starting to sink in. This young human had walked up to the most dangerous creature in the galaxy and convinced it to return to captivity using nothing but his voice and body language. He claimed to work with apex predators in the field, alone, and somehow survive. "Ben," she said carefully, "how long have humans been studying galactic predators?" "About 50 years, Ben replied. "Ever since we joined the galactic community." "And how successful have these studies been?" For the first time all day, Ben smiled slightly. "Very successful, Your Highness. We've learned quite a lot." As they walked back toward the main corridor, Zara noticed that the creatures in the viewing areas were still behaving strangely around Ben. The Death Stalkers, the Shard Wolves, the Nebula Hunters, all of them moved to the backs of their enclosures when he passed by. She was beginning to suspect that there was much more to this apprentice than anyone had told her. Princess Zara followed Ben through the station corridors, her mind racing with questions. The way the Void Reaper had backed down from him defied everything she knew about galactic predators. As they walked, she noticed more station personnel emerging from emergency shelters. They all looked at Ben with expressions of relief and something else she couldn't identify. "Ben," called out Dr. Sarah Chen, the station's head of security. "Is everything secure?" "Yes," Ben replied simply. "The containment systems are working properly now." Dr. Chen nodded and moved away, but not before giving Ben a look that seemed almost respectful. Zara found this strange. Why would the head of security defer to a simple research assistant? They returned to the main observation area where their tour had started. Ben seemed completely calm, as if facing down a Void Reaper was just part of his normal day. This bothered Zara more than she wanted to admit. "I want to see the Void Reaper," she said suddenly. Ben stopped walking and looked at her. "Your Highness, that might not be safe. It was safe enough for you to walk up to it a few minutes ago. That was different. I had to stop it from hunting station personnel." "Show me," Zara insisted, using the commanding tone that had never failed to get results throughout her life. Ben studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. But please stay close and don't make any sudden movements." They took a lift down to Section 7, the maximum security area. The corridors here were built differently, with thicker walls and multiple security doors. As they walked, Ben's entire demeanor began to change again. His posture became more alert, and his movements grew even quieter than before. "Section 7 is designed to hold the most dangerous specimens," Ben explained as they approached a massive viewing window. "Triple reinforced transparent aluminum, energy barriers, and environmental controls that can create any atmosphere needed." They stopped in front of the viewing window, and Zara saw the Void Reaper for the second time. In proper lighting, the creature was even more terrifying than before. Its shadow-covered body moved with fluid grace as it paced around its containment. The acidic drips from its claws had created small holes in the metal floor. "It knows we're here," Ben said quietly. The Void Reaper stopped pacing and turned toward the viewing window. Even though it had no visible eyes, Zara felt its attention focus on them like a physical weight. She instinctively stepped back, but Ben remained exactly where he was. "Why isn't it trying to break out?" Zara asked. "Because it doesn't want to," Ben replied. "What do you mean?" "Void Reapers are intelligent hunters. They don't waste energy on actions that won't benefit them." The creature approached the viewing window slowly. When it reached the transparent barrier, it placed one clawed hand against the surface. Ben stepped forward and placed his own hand on the window, directly opposite the creature's claw. Zara watched in amazement as the Void Reaper made the same rumbling sound she had heard earlier. Ben responded in the same strange non-language, a series of low sounds that seemed to come from deep in his chest. "You're actually communicating with it," Zara whispered. "Yes," Ben said, not taking his attention away from the creature. "How is that possible? Void Reapers have never shown any ability to communicate with other species." Ben was quiet for a moment, still making the strange sounds. Finally, he stepped back from the window. The Void Reaper watched him for a few more seconds, then returned to its pacing. "Your Highness," Ben said, turning to face her, "how much do you know about human evolution?" The question surprised her. "Very little. Your species only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. Your records show that you evolved on a single planet with relatively few dangerous predators." "That's correct," Ben said. "Earth has large predators, but nothing like the creatures we keep here." "Then how can you communicate with a Void Reaper?" "Because communication isn't about language," Ben replied. "It's about understanding. And humans are very good at understanding predators." They left Section 7 and returned to the main research area. Ben led her to a small office that contained several computer terminals and walls covered with charts and photographs. The photos showed various galactic apex predators in their natural environments. "This is where Dr. Voss and I compile our research," Ben said, sitting down at one of the terminals. "Would you like to see our findings?" Zara took a seat across from him. "Yes. I want to understand what's really happening here." Ben activated the terminal and brought up a series of files. The first one showed footage of Krillian Deathstalkers on their home world. In the video, the massive predators were hunting in packs, working together to bring down even larger prey. "Deathstalkers are apex predators on the acid worlds," Ben explained. "They've never had any natural enemies. Until recently. The video changed to show the same deathstalkers behaving very differently. Instead of hunting in packs, they were hiding in caves and underground tunnels. They moved carefully and seemed constantly alert for danger. This footage was taken 6 months ago, Ben said. Notice how their behavior has changed. They're acting like prey animals, Zara observed. Exactly. Something has made them afraid. Ben brought up more videos showing similar changes in other apex predators. Shard wolves that normally hunted in the open crystal fields were staying hidden in deep caves. Nebula hunters that used to attack ships boldly were avoiding all contact with space vessels. Every apex predator species we've studied shows the same pattern, Ben said. They're all afraid of something. What could make a Void Reaper afraid? Zara asked. Ben looked at her directly. The same thing that made the one here back away from me. The implication of his words hit her slowly. You're saying they're afraid of humans? I'm saying they recognize humans as a threat, Ben corrected. There's a difference. Ben activated another file, this one showing a map of human colonial expansion over the past 50 years. Red dots marked where humans had established settlements or research stations. Now look at this, Ben said, overlaying the predator attack data onto the same map. Zara stared at the display in shock. The areas where apex predator attacks had increased were all regions where humans had not established any presence. The attacks were happening as the predators fled from areas where humans were active. They're running away from you, she said quietly. Yes, Ben confirmed. And when apex predators run, they invade territories that other species thought were safe. Ben brought up more detailed files, showing human research teams working with various predators. In every case, the researchers were able to work closely with creatures that terrified other galactic species. Dr. Voss isn't just any xenobiologist, Ben said. He's part of a human research initiative that specializes in apex predator psychology. We have teams working throughout the galaxy. And you're not really his apprentice. No, Ben said simply. I'm a specialist in predator behavior modification. I have 15 years of field experience working with dangerous species. Zara felt her understanding of the galaxy shifting fundamentally. Why did you lie to me? Because the truth makes most species uncomfortable, Ben replied. When other races learn how effectively humans can work with apex predators, they start asking questions we're not ready to answer. What questions? Ben was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to tell her. Finally, he activated one more file. This one showed footage of humans in various environments, but something about the video made Zara feel uneasy. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Ben said as the video played. We're not the fastest or strongest species, but we're the most persistent. We can track prey across vast distances and wear them down over time. The video showed human researchers following various predators in the wild. What disturbed Zara was how the predators reacted. Even the most dangerous creatures seemed nervous when humans were nearby. We also evolved as pack hunters, Ben continued. We coordinate our actions through complex communication and strategy. Most galactic predators hunt alone or in small groups. They don't understand our level of cooperation. You make it sound like humans are predators themselves. Ben looked at her with an expression that was both calm and somehow unsettling. Your Highness, every species in the galaxy evolved to fill a specific ecological role. Herbivores eat plants. Small predators hunt herbivores. Apex predators hunt everything else. And humans? Humans evolved to hunt the hunters. The word sent a chill through Zara. She had never thought of humans in those terms before. To her species, humans seemed primitive and unrefined, useful mainly for manual labor and simple tasks. That's why the creatures here behave differently around you, she said, understanding finally dawning. They recognize what we are, Ben confirmed. Not through conscious thought, but through millions of years of evolutionary instinct. When an apex predator sees a human, part of its brain warns that something more dangerous is nearby. Ben stood up and walked to the wall of photographs. Most of them showed him working closely with creatures that could easily kill him. In every picture, the predators appeared calm and even submissive. Dr. Voss and I are part of a larger human strategy, Ben said. We're establishing a presence in dangerous regions of the galaxy, not through military force, but through demonstration of our capabilities. What kind of capabilities? The ability to go where other species cannot go safely. To work in environments that apex predators control. To establish colonies and research stations in areas that were previously too dangerous for galactic civilization. Zara thought about the implications. If humans could safely work in regions controlled by apex predators, they would have access to resources and territory that other species couldn't reach. Your empire has been having problems with predator attacks, Ben observed. Yes. 17 colonies have been abandoned in the past year. We could help with that. How? Ben activated the terminal again and brought up detailed information about the Villani colonial regions. The data was far more comprehensive than anything Zara had expected a simple research assistant to have access to. Human predator management teams could secure your colonies, Ben said. We could establish safe zones and relocate dangerous species to areas where they won't threaten civilian populations. In exchange for what? Partnership, Ben said simply. Recognition that humans bring unique capabilities to galactic civilization. Zara understood now why she had been sent to meet with Dr. Voss. This wasn't just about learning how to deal with predator attacks. This was about establishing new relationships between species based on capabilities rather than just technological advancement. How many other species have you made this offer to? She asked. Several, Ben replied. The results have been very positive. Ben showed her files containing agreements with various galactic governments. Human research teams were now working throughout the galaxy, establishing safe zones and managing dangerous wildlife. In every case, the human teams had succeeded where other species had failed. Your people have been planning this for decades, Zara said. We've been preparing to contribute to galactic civilization in ways that match our natural abilities, Ben corrected. Every species has something unique to offer. And humans offer the ability to control apex predators. Among other things. The implications were staggering. If humans could safely access and control regions dominated by dangerous predators, they would quickly become one of the most influential species in the galaxy. Not through conquest or technological superiority, but through simple biological advantage. I need to report this to the Villani High Council immediately, Zara said. Of course, Ben agreed. Dr. Voss will return in 3 weeks to discuss formal agreements. As they walked back toward the docking area where her transport waited, Zara noticed that the station personnel they passed all nodded respectfully to Ben. She realized now that everyone here knew exactly who he was and what he could do. Ben, she said as they reached her ship, when the Void Reaper broke containment, you weren't surprised. No, he admitted. Void Reapers are intelligent enough to test their containment systems. I expected it would try to escape eventually. And you were prepared for it. Yes. Because you've done this before. Ben smiled slightly. Yes, Your Highness. Many times. As Zara boarded her transport, she looked back at Ben standing calmly in the docking bay. The young human who had seemed so unremarkable when she first arrived now appeared completely different to her eyes. He looked confident and capable in a way that reminded her of seasoned military commanders. Your Highness, Ben called out as her ship prepared to depart. Please give my regards to the High Council. And let them know that human predator management services are available whenever they're needed. Zara's transport lifted off from the station, and she immediately activated the communication system to contact her government. As the research station grew smaller behind them, she could see Ben through the viewing ports, returning to work with creatures that could destroy entire fleets. "High Council," she said when the communication link connected, "I need to speak with you about humans. Everything we thought we knew about them is wrong." 3 hours later, her transport received a message that several other research positions had become available at stations throughout Villani space. All of them requested human specialists in apex predator management. Zara realized that Ben's smile as she departed had not been polite courtesy. It had been the quiet satisfaction of someone whose long-term plan was proceeding exactly as intended. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were not the primitive newcomers they appeared to be. They were something far more significant, and potentially far more dangerous. They were the species that even apex predators instinctively feared.